FNR, Football Nation Radio.
COTSANIS, no call! Score!
Salamini for Cole. Cole on the run. Shoots. 2-0.
Lazanovsky with the free kick. Launches a rocket! Trimboli, what vision! Blasts. Yes! Antics!
Vujovic.
Beautiful ball! Here's Bozanic. They haven't! They might have won it!
The Pioneers with George DONIKIAN and George COTSANIS on FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Yes, welcome to another edition of The Pioneers on FNR. George DONIKIAN here, George COTSANIS on the other end of the microphone. Say hello, Georgie.
Hello, Georgie.
Last week when we mentioned, in fact that you mentioned that our guest this week would be a former player, coach and pioneering football commentator from 927 Radio and from the world of sport in TV land, a guy called John Shocker Myles. We received a stream of posts. Brilliant, shocker, so many stories to tell. Enjoy it, pal. Shocker, don't get booted off the air, mate. Enjoy.
We won't let him get
And
booted
is
off.
there a pair of Mizuno boots up for grabs tonight? You've been warned, John.
Thank you,
Welcome
George.
to FNR.
Yes, thank you, George and George.
Now listen, you arrived in Australia in '69 when the population of this country was around 12 million people.
Yeah.
John Gorton was the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
1969 was also the year that Balmain won what proved to be its last rugby league premiership.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, but more importantly, Richmond won the VFL Grand Final.
Great.
And a horse by the name of Rainlover won the Melbourne Cup for the second successive year.
Do you remember any of that?
1969, remember any of it?
I remember Richmond because I'm very friendly with a lot of Richmond people, and yeah, I remember celebrations in Richmond. I didn't really get what it was all about, but certainly do now.
You've caught on.
I've got on. Thanks, George and George COTSANIS and George DONIKIAN.
We thought we'd keep it simple. One name, you should cover both bases.
Yes, well, one's really good looking and the other one's good looking, so. Well, look at that. It's a bit quiet.
It's all quiet in here. So take us back. Take us back to Scotland and tell us about growing up.
Oh, he's a Scot. Oh,
Yes.
I hadn't quite worked
We've had one
the
or two
accent
on
out.
the
Yes,
show.
He thought,
You should
I thought I was Greek, actually, didn't he?
Yeah, I did.
Well,
Greek to
just
me.
normal growing up, and you take up school, you take up soccer and boxing, and you know, I was a bit of a lad, I think, you know what I mean, and I was always guided by people.
Whereabouts
in
are
the street.
we talking about?
Leith in
Leith.
Scotland, well, Edinburgh, the dock
Yep.
area of Edinburgh,
Okay.
with the famous Hibernian Soccer Club, which is a team I love.
Your beloved.
Won the
Yes.
cup in 2016 for the first time in 114 years.
They've got a young Australian there at the moment.
Yes, Jimmy McLaren. He scored last week against Glasgow Rangers.
A penalty, no less.
A penalty. It's a penalty. Yes, and then I took up boxing and I played soccer as well because I loved it and managed the two sports. Then I come over here and turned professional in
Hang on,
1969.
you can't just jump like that. What brought you down under in '69?
I think to get away from being a bit stigmatised in Scotland. I'll be honest with you. I think I was in more trouble than I should have been, and you know, the boxing helped me, and so I thought, well, I'll take it to the next level, because I think once in Scotland, if they say, well, he's a bit of a lad, you know what I mean. And I was overlooked a couple of times to box for the Scottish team, only because, you know, past.
Indiscretions.
Indiscretions, that's a good way to put it.
So were they
George.
physical indiscretions, or were you just your mouth got you in trouble?
Mouth and a bit of where you grew up.
I just wanted to clarify that for all the
Yeah,
listeners.
there's a bit of problem on the street over there, as you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, a fresh start, come to Australia, nobody knows who you are. You can probably tell them anything, which I did. And arrived here and still hold the record for being used up. I boxed 22 rounds in 6 days. They weren't even doing that in the 30s.
Yeah.
I had a 6-rounder on the Friday night at Festival Hall, just round the corner there.
Yeah. Just down the road.
Just down the road there. And then I had a 6 round. They liked it so much, I had 6 rounds on the Monday on TV Ringside. and then I had 10 rounds on a Wednesday up in South Sydney Juniors League Club.
And no concussion.
I've got the concussion, George. I just can't remember your name now. So that was
that's extraordinary.
and that was interesting, the boxing bit. And then I got involved with people from Heidelberg Soccer Club, which is the original Heidelberg. Which
Heidelberg Bandura.
Yeah, Heidelberg, and it was the original Heidelberg in 1928 it was formed.
Yep.
And a great bunch of guys, and I just loved it. And I gave the boxing away for a couple of years to concentrate on, not concentrate, but I just liked to, you could get a beer and you could play sport as well. Whereas the boxing, it's pretty Spartan. You know what I mean? You've got to stay off the drink, stay off the nest, and
I thought your gym was, well and truly looked after, and you would have had a bar in the gym. And
Just around the corner, probably.
we could have had a bar in the gym, but
But you did have a gymnasium in Preston at the time.
yeah, we did. That was the Brizzy brothers, Cos and Ben Brizzy, the late Cos Brizzy, and they were just starting off at the time, and they were really good people. And the family was Italian. It was at the back of the house, and Mrs. Brizzy, God rest her soul, she introduced me to proper Italian food, and oh boy, did I put on some weight.
I was going to say, did that help your
I've
boxing?
the only spaghetti I've ever had was out of a tin, and to get spaghetti bolognese
Al
and
dente.
mangiare.
Al dente.
You don't mangiare, you look like a little chicken. Have some of this, have some. They got meatballs and everything. Oh. And Benny, my trainer, said, "You gotta stop eating." I said, "Well, you gotta stop your mum giving it to me." So. But that was the boxing, and boxing was fantastic.
Tell us about the boxing you mentioned earlier. There was the two factions. There was the ringside, which was Channel 7 and Festival Hall, which was kind of like the prime time.
Well, they monopolised the game.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, they monopolised the game. If you box, you either box for Channel 7 in stadiums, or you didn't box in their affiliated clubs in Sydney, or you didn't box for anybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like being told where to go. They'd done it to me at the start with 22 rounds in 6 days, and they even tried to screw me with a contract. John Kane was their solicitor at the time. He became the Premier, and I hadn't signed as a boxer. I'd signed as a trainer. So my 65-year-old trainer had to fulfil the 2 years at TV ringside. Didn't go well. I think he got knocked out. And then that let me fly away to the Australian Boxing Federation, which became great, where Gus Mercurio was good at starting out, Mike Ryan from the Edge, Jack Rennie, Lionel Rose's trainer.
You're talking about some of the greatest characters that the game had for
Ah.
quite a long time.
Well, up until Gus died, not long ago, I used to do the commentaries, for Sky Channel and various video companies with Gus. I was a co-commentator for Gus, and when he died, I stopped because it wasn't interesting anymore.
Wasn't the same.
It wasn't. I love Gus, and I was heartbroken when he died. He was going for a routine operation, and it didn't come through. And I've been in touch with Rita, his lady, and Paul, his son, Paul Mercurio, on television. But Gus was just a phenomenal, straight, no messing about person. And
So what you saw is what you got.
he was fantastic. I mean, I really get upset sometimes when I think about the times we had together, because you think they're never going to end.
Did you ever take him to the soccer?
No.
You knew your limits, did you?
Gus was very one-dimensional. He liked a little bit of footy, but he was mainly into boxing, and he knew everything about everything. He done his homework. He was like Bruce McAvaney. He done his homework. He knew everything about everything. Before he spoke about anything, he knew the ins and outs of it and who was good and who wasn't. A lot of trainers didn't like his commentaries because he was pretty open and honest with them. But, Gus would tell them to go forth and multiply and say, well, that's what I think of your kid. So that was it. So
Didn't mince his words.
never.
So you two would have got on like a house on fire.
We had our moments, actually, but we used to, sometimes we'd get upset. I mean, I remember I played a tremendous trick on him once where there was a title fight, and it was up in Knock somewhere. There was a big crowd, and we were hooking up to go to America because the guy Tommy Small was from America. So we're hooking up with this radio station in there with the text from Sport 927 there with us, and then I was like this. and Gus came back from the toilet, and I said, here's Gus Mercurio, he's just come back from interviewing at the rooms. And I said, oh, look over there, there's Johnny Farnham over there. And Gus would get up. And I said, Olivia Newton-John's over there. Oh, Jimmy Barnes is over there too. And Gus would get up and down and get up and down. He says, I can't see them. I said, no, they're not there, Gus. He said, don't say that on it. But he didn't know that we weren't on air. So that was, you know.
Playing games.
Yeah, it was quite funny actually, because he was kept on getting up to have a look and see.
Did you ever play any games on the football field?
Oh, lots. Yeah, lots. Like tonight, later on, George COTSANIS has asked me if I'd divulge something that's never been divulged for
Over 30 years.
over 30 years. And that's the case of the missing goalposts.
Missing goalposts. We're going to find out on FNR.
Yes,
First time ever. This is
First
an
time.
exclusive. This is a Victorian soccer exclusive. And
Okay,
I'm
so
very
so
excited.
normally we go to the X-Files, but in this case we're going to the Pioneers.
Absolutely.
John Shocker Myles. What have you got for us, John?
I don't know if you want.
Well, I'll preface it. It was the last game of the season, right?
The last game for us, yeah, with
Okay.
Heidelberg Bandura, yeah.
Yeah. So you needed 1 point to avoid relegation.
1 point to avoid relegation from that division.
Okay. And you're playing the top team, who was.
Paran Celtic, coached by the great Hugh Murney, and
Alright, so Shuggy,
Shuggy.
your old mate.
yes, my
Yeah.
idol actually. I love Shuggy. Yeah.
So they still had another game in hand to play.
Yes, they had a postponed game to play after ours.
Okay. So you want to avoid relegation. They want to win the league. They've booked their celebrations for that week.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, you tell me from here what your
What
version of the
transpired.
story. Yeah.
Well, I rung Shug up and I said, Shug, I said, we only need a point. I said, you couldn't just battle through this week. I said, I've got a team that's, I've got that many injuries. I'm playing people, I says, even if I get a point, and he said, oh, no, I can't. I said, I've got everything organised and we're going to win the championship. I said, yeah, but you're playing a dud team next week. So if you give us a point, then we get saved, and then, because you played for me. And he was my captain in 1975, although he was 10 years older than me. But,
So you had history and a good relationship.
Oh, great
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
I love the man dearly.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I can't do it. And I'm not going to do it. We've got a hall booked in St Mary's in St Kilda. I'm taking the boys for a meal at the Tower Hotel Alvington before the game. And I said, yeah, fair enough. So I told the boys on the Thursday night, through the committee men and a few of the supporters, and I said, he's not going to do it. Which is good. It's honest. And somebody said, oh, it's a pity Tommy Docherty wasn't here, because when he coached or managed Chelsea, he got 5 or 6 fire engines, and they came to Stamford Bridge and they flooded the ground when they were playing these Europeans in a European Cup tie, and they were slipping and sliding all over the ground, and they couldn't handle the wet conditions. Italians, I think they were. Somebody says, we couldn't flood the pitch, could we? I said, no, it's dry as out. It's dry as, you know what I mean? So we can't flood the pitch.
It's not
And
Moorabbin.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to help us get this point.
No. I said, if the game's postponed, it will be right. And I said, what if there's no goalposts? I mean, we're living in Heidelberg, and you get a bit of vandalism in Heidelberg. And of course, one word borrowed another, and another, and another, and we had a plumber there who was a supporter, Aussie guy. I won't mention his name.
Please,
No,
please
because
don't.
they're still looking for him.
Yeah, because actually, so we said, and we're getting a few more drinks into us, and on Thursday night, as you do after training,
And the plan's getting better now.
the plan's getting bold, and it's getting really good. And I'm saying, well, we'll not have to steal one set. That's not really bad, is it? It's not like stealing 2 sets. So we organised a little soiree on the Friday night at the club rooms, and we were on the back of a ute, and we had an angle grinder, and half an hour later the posts were gone. So everybody had to keep quiet, and I said to the canteen lady, I said, listen, whatever you do, make sure you order the right amount of pies for a normal Saturday.
Don't give it away.
Don't give it away, and all the hot dogs and everything, so make sure you do it. Right, so anyway, the Parade Celtic reserve team came up. I think they were coached by Pat McElhaney at the time. And I said, look, I think the game's off. Why? I said, well, there's only one set of goalposts, unless you want to play shooting in from both ends, you know? And he said, what's going on? I said, well, we can't do nothing about it. We live in Heidelberg. It's just, somebody's come and take the goalposts.
Stuff happens.
It's happened. And anyway, Hugh Murney, Shuggy had the team and the squad at the Alphington, the Tower Hotel in Alphington, for the pre-match meal for the Brand Celtic team. And then no mobiles in them days, so somebody, the committee men had rang for Shug, and Shug went up to the phone behind the bar, and he got the news that the game wouldn't be played because the goalpost was missing. So he went back to the table and goes, "Hey lads," and there was 15 of them there. They said, "What?" He says, "Somebody stole the goalposts," and the whole lot of them said in unison, "Shocker."
So whether you'd done it or not, you were going to be blamed, right?
Well, I copped to blame, you
Yeah.
know, and I was just thinking, well, I can't say it anyway. A lot of people turned up at the ground, and there was a lot of arguments and things, and I said, well, I can't do nothing about it. It's gone. I said, look, all the money was spent on pies and sausage rolls and hot dogs and all that carry on. But anyway, the VSF dragged us down there, the judiciary, but I didn't know they had somebody go up and have a look where the goalposts were missing.
Bit of
And-
CSI going on here.
yeah, and it was an angle grinder. So it's not like one of the they've come to the conclusion that it's not like a couple of vandals for Heidelberg have walking along the street saying, "Hey, Jimmy, have you got that angle grinder in your pocket along with your lighter? Let's just cut these goalposts down and take them away." But these goalposts, I must say, and that's the first time I've ever read that story, I'm to blame,
Yeah.
along with a couple of other people. The judiciary fined us $500.
Oh, dear.
And you thought it should have been 250 because
$250 because there was only one goal, one
yeah.
set.
Yeah.
Did
But-
you get relegated?
We did get relegated back into the third division, and after all that, we were relegated plus $500 a bit lighter as well. And then we also had about 300 pies over. Just in case anybody's listening, anybody's
And
worried.
Shuggy
About,
Murney, did his team win the title?
they won the title. They were
They should have
given,
come back and had the pies.
well, they were given the game, and plus they'd won it anyway. And that night in St Mary's, I think they just celebrated anyway because, you know, they were going to win the title anyway. And Shug and me and I, we never fell out over it. They were more worried about all the celebrations being disturbed rather than the game. But I must tell you one thing, how things carry. There's a great journalist in the world called Hugh McIlvanney, and he's Scottish, but he does a lot of boxing books. He's done it on Muhammad Ali, and he's a great narrator as well. He does commentaries and documentaries. Well, when Scotland came over here to play Australia in the World Cup, I had the privilege of being at his table because he was a friend of mine's family from Scotland, and we're introducing everybody. This is so and so, so and so, and this is Shocker over here, and he goes, "The man who stole the goalposts." But somebody had clued him up, you know.
I've got two questions in relation to the goalpost.
We're just going to take a break. When we come back, more of the
Yeah,
pioneers.
go for it.
Going to you, George? Yeah. All right. Mike's up.
Welcome back to the Pioneers. You're with George DONIKIAN and George COTSANIS, and we're with our special guest, John Shocker Myles. Two
Emphasis on
questions.
Shocker.
Yeah, absolutely. Goalposts. I haven't finished yet.
Oh,
Two questions.
sorry, Your Honour.
No, that's right. Well, we've uncovered it. We want to get to the end of it, right?
The end of it.
You mean there is an end? Okay.
You've shared it with us tonight
Mm-hmm.
for the first time ever, publicly.
Yeah.
Since then, have you confessed to Shuggy?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
so he knew.
well, he
All
knew.
right.
He knew.
All right, and now, most importantly, where are these goalposts?
Well, they're cut down, and they're now they hold up to a gate. They're the posts for a gate in Heidelberg. Both sides
In a house.
In a house, yeah, and they hold up the gate. They're half the size they were.
Okay. And they're still there, right?
They're still there. I passed it just before Christmas. I passed the house. The guy who put the gate up, who helped remove the posts, he said he had a youth.
Does he still live there?
No, he's left there actually, but the posts are still there. So it
So
just
the owners don't know.
no.
Next time you drive past there, take a photo, send it to me, and we'll post it online just to finish the story and give it a nice full stop. Now
Well,
that we've got the truth.
I might give the address and then maybe somebody will go and take them.
Well, if you give the address, there'll be like a Christmas lights traffic congestion happening out the front of that place from all these soccer nerds.
Could be a holy grail. It could be like Gracelands.
Could be.
These are the posts that went missing. They're famous.
Speaking of being famous, in your time, there have been some great stories. One of the things I want to know is you mix this amazing, what they call it, the science, what they call the sweet science.
Sweet science of
Sweet
boxing,
science.
yeah.
Yep. And football.
Yeah.
Did you ever get confused while you were playing football?
What a great way of putting it, George. I love that. Yes, I did. Well, the worst game where I got confused. Oh, I love this. Confused because
You've got an excuse. It's
well,
just
this is
confusion.
why. I'll see Your Honour in a minute. Yeah, there was. It was a game against Preston Macedonia, and they had just been brought back into the team, brought back into the league. They'd been banned, for crowd trouble. So they had a ground up in Reservoir called Dole Reserve, and it was a football ground. So until they got the ground back in Preston, and there's a guy there, and he was mouthing off, and there was a few things said, and I'm sure I had a bell ring, so
That's a good defence.
and he went down. Well, there's no trams up there, but there is trains, so it might have been the level crossing.
Okay.
So before Daniel Andrews got rid of him.
Yeah.
So he went down, and there was this almighty melee. And Preston, they got a lot of supporters, and they were coming over the fence from everywhere. And this guy said to me, come on, let's get out of here. And of course, after the melee settled down, we were at one side of the ground, and they were at the other. And they were just coming round like big flocks, these seagulls, coming round towards me. And this mate of mine said, I'm going to start the engine up in my car. I just want you to jump the fence and get into the car. So anyway, I said, right, fair enough. So I said, all right. So I just sort of slowly went over and jumped in the car, and then I waited up the Old England Hotel at Heidelberg for the boys to come and find out what the result was. I went home and changed. I had my boots on, things like that. So I went home and changed, and I got 6 weeks from my club, and I got 6 weeks from the federation, and I thought that would have been just 6 weeks, but the federation said, no, we know your clubs gave you 6 weeks, so we're going to tack it on to their 6 weeks. I said, yeah, but that's 12. And the guy at the federation says, well, there's one thing, boxing hasn't damaged your ability to count. So I was ready to fire another punch when I came through.
Do you remember who that was?
No, but there was a lot of them up there at the time. And I had a few visits up to I had a short temper, a really bad temper,
Surprise.
Yeah, but boxers normally have good tempers. You know what I mean? Your temperament's good, but I think it was more frustration that I wasn't such a good player, and then I got sent off a lot of times, but just reckless stuff and things like that. Not as much as Andy O'Dell, I don't think, but. Or some of the other ones. I shouldn't have mentioned Andy.
Oh, well, he's just copped the slap now, so we can't. We won't edit that out. We've gone live.
What did you make of the officials that ran the game in your time, and some of the people who are running the game these days?
As far as officials being referees, I thought we had some of the best referees going. Because the reason being, George, is they were tough. One was a guy called Tommy Stirling, Scotsman, really tough. I mean, you'd complain and he'd swear at you. Another one was obviously Jerry Conley, great referee.
Jerry did the same in Swearingen, wouldn't he?
Well, you didn't say nothing to Jerry because Jerry you had the feeling the referee was going to hit you. And then you had, Roger Lamb, Chris Bainbridge, John Fraser.
Tony Boscovich.
Yeah.
It's about man management, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dennis Vucinis. Really, but you respected them.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to call them Mister to the face.
Respectful.
And then I used to doubt the parenthood afterwards. You know what I mean? But I used to think, and Jimmy Dale, who was a good soccer player with Heidelberg, he went on to be a good referee too. and but they'd all played the game, and they didn't. Yeah, if you turn around and said, "Oh, for F's sake," you know what I mean, or whatever, they didn't take that as right, you yellow card, because they would swear back at you and say, "Oh, get on with it, you're whinging," you know, and all that carry on. And they were tough people because they played the game, and I think
They weren't precious.
no, well, that's what I think. And then some of the people officials who ran the game, as in like administration, when I was on the radio, Sport 927, where well, that was a great soccer show. I mean, I was quite proud of all achievements and that. But I had a lot of run-ins with the chairman of the Australian Soccer Federation, David Hill, and they were big ones.
Yeah, well, I was just about to lead you into this Sport 927 and your wonderful radio career, because really you're a forerunner for what we do here and for this whole radio station, and that's why you're in as a pioneer. Tell us about how that came about, that radio show, and your involvement, how you brought it about.
Well, I was working for 3UZ in the mornings with Brian Taylor, and I used to do a lot of boxing reports for them, and then I started to sneak in a little bit of soccer overnight. Overnight, Brian Taylor, the barge, he hated soccer, and I think he still does.
He still does.
And I used to say, "Oh, overnight, Tottenham Hotspur beat blah blah blah. Oh, that was a good game, 0-0." But then people started to respond to it, so then I started to do stuff with Liam Wiegard and Ray Jordan, and Liam Wiegard was really good with soccer, a beautiful man, and Slug was brilliant, really funny, and then by Dougie Hawkins as well. We had some really great laughs, and sometimes like you'd get away with the soccer a fair bit. Then there was a spot on a Monday evening from 5 till 7, and it was called the Football Roundup, as in Australian rules, and that was Brian Wilson from Melbourne, former Melbourne player, and the late Tom Hafey, who was a beautiful man too.
Great man, yeah.
And they had that show, but it wasn't doing too well. So I thought, I'm going in for this. So I went in and I tried to get money off the Soccer Federation and the ASF, but they didn't come forward, so I had to go and find funding. And I did, but I'm glad I didn't get the money from the ASF or the VSF, because nobody owned me. And I could be political and I could be topical and I could say it the way it was. So anyway, we finished up getting the times at 5 o'clock to 7. My first co-host was Alan Evans, $100,000 player from Wolves to Liverpool. Superstar. But Alan was quiet and he wasn't good, and he wasn't that good on air. But David Brooks was good with me, and I sort of had to let Dave go because he was concentrating a lot on the Music Man. But he was probably the best co-host, Brooksy.
Mr. Personality. Eh?
I'm sorry I didn't have him longer with me. I wish I'd have got over his Music Man thing, and then we could have spent time together, because he's got a great wit.
Yep.
And he was really, really good at interviews, you know what I mean? So, and then we had everybody, George. We had the 4th Division. We'd interviews. I was telling George COTSANIS before we come on air, that a guy came up to me at a Box Hill game and he said to me, he says, "Oh, you interviewed my son. He scored a hat-trick the other week. You interviewed him." I said, "Oh, that's right, yeah, I know his name." And he said, "We taped it." I said, "Oh, there was tape days then. We taped it." And he says, "And you know what happened?" He says, "Just after you said to him, 'Oh, that's my son,' and see Alan, blah, blah, blah," he said, he said straight away, he said, "And after the break, we'll be speaking to Alex Ferguson from Manchester United." He says, "And I've got, my son was interviewed, and then following him for an interview was Alex Ferguson." And that's the way I used to mix it up. I didn't believe in having a 4th Division guy and giving him a minute, and then somebody in the National League giving them 5 minutes. You know, I like to mix it up and put it about, because it's a round game and it's for all. There's no top, there's no bottom for soccer ball.
Correct.
It's round. So I got everybody involved. I got guys to come, and I had quizzes, which Stan Webster used to win all the time, or his son did, Stuart, and he won all his 17 pair of Mizuno boots. But
that was the prize of the week, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we had, and I was topical, and the only one that ever banned me was David Hill. He was the chairman of Soccer Australia, and I gave Terry Venables a hard time when he got the Australian coaching job, manager's job. And
What did you say?
I just said he wasn't the man for the job. I think he was too much baggage. He was a circus. He was all right with little jokes and things like that. But we need somebody to get their sleeves rolled up. Eddie Thompson, Raleigh Rasic, Frank O'Rourke,
Yeah.
you know, some of these guys who really were passionate about Australia, not just a guy who owned a nightclub and played for Chelsea, but he suited David Hill, his media spiel and all that. So I said, and David Hill started saying to me, he said, you give Terry Venables a hard time. I said, yeah, I was only asking the questions what the people want. I'm a fan. Before anything, I'm a fan. I'm not, you know, a media guy first. I'm a fan first. And this is why I asked them other questions. Well, what happened, George, was the media released people that sent in questions for me to ask Terry, and I threw them in the bin. I said, I'm not answering these questions. And he was a bit befuddled and blah, blah, blah. And I think he maybe had a drink as well because he was a bit blah, blah, blah. And then David Hill got into me about it, and I said, David, I hope we win.
But he accused you of wanting Australia to lose, didn't he?
Yeah, he said, Australia's going to lose. You want Australia to lose. I said, no, because if they win, everybody gets a share. Because I get to go overseas, I get to report on it for 5 different radio stations. More people will be listening to the show. I said, why? I said, but I feel we're going to get... I just feel it's not right. And it's not right in the dressing rooms. And he's going to change the back 4, I know. He's going to drop Milana Ivanovic and the other fellow, what's it, Alex Tobin. And he put Steve Horvath in. He could have done that after we got there. Anyway, we did get beat. But David Hill had said to the radio station, any funding that's coming from the ASF to your radio station's got to stop. I said, well, there's nothing coming because we don't get anything from you. That's why I can turn around and say, David Hill, this is the last time I'll ever hear you on air. So bye-bye. And that was it. So.
David Hill, once upon a time, used to be the Minister for Trains in the New South Wales government. He had the same sort of problem. He never really could get it to run on time. So clearly you had a magic time with him.
Yeah, I think there was a few problems, you know, with the, you know.
There was a disconnect between David Hill and anyone involved in soccer, and history will show that that was the case.
So how do we connect the people with the game today? You've been around an awful long time. You've loved the game. You still love the game. You've loved 2 games, actually. You've loved boxing. You've loved boxing, and you've loved football. How do we get to reconnect this game?
Well, I think you've got to go out and sell it to the people.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Angie Postecoglou didn't do it. He was a coach of Australia, but I think he was a poor one.
Yep.
Because it's a 2-way job. You've got to get the team firing, get it in the dressing rooms, and you've also got to sell the game. He wasn't media friendly. I don't say you've got to go out there and be a clown, but you've got to have the passion, you know what I mean? And I think we've got to sell it. And I think the A-League is a disaster.
Tell us why.
Well, why would you have a team in Perth and a team in Brisbane? That's like having a team in England and a team in Turkey, you know, and playing, you know, each other. I really do think it's the crowd that makes the game. And 2 sets of supporters always make a game. Like derbies are the biggest sellers. If I was running soccer now, this is the way I'd do it. I'd have 10 top teams in Victoria, 10 in each state. And this keeps the dream alive. And then the 2 top teams from these states go off and play in the Australian Cup, like a European Cup style, Cup Winners' Cup. That's what you call it. Then the 10 teams in each state, you'd introduce relegation, which would keep, because our game was boring. Out of the top 6, you just forget about the rest. But when you introduce relegation, you're excited. A game.
You're invested.
That's right. A game against the second bottom team against the bottom team doesn't become a no-watch game. It becomes a must-watch game. And then there's a little team like in say Victoria, like Green Gully. They might get promoted to the Victorian Premier League. And you know, and the TV rights will still be the same because we get packed grounds, boutique grounds, but they would be packed. And even if you're playing double headers, but the interest would be, hey, I could be playing in the national playoffs. And
something at stake every time.
Yeah, because we must have somewhere where we can have a dream, and not a dead end, and then a dead end at the bottom of the National League and a dead end in Victoria. If you say like you're South Melbourne, and you've got a good ground and you've just won the Victorian Premier League 3 times in a row, your fans are going to get fed up.
There's nowhere to go.
Where's next? Where
Yeah.
do we go next?
Yeah.
If they go into the national playoff, the national cup, and they play each other home and away, you know, that's what. Then you're going to cut down your inventory from flying all over the place. How many people follow Perth Glory are going to go to watch them play against Brisbane Roar? And so if Perth Glory don't play for 2 weeks, or you can't see your team, you're going to see something else. You must have, if you have your 10 teams in Victoria, as it say the Victorian Premier League, you'll go and see that team every week. You don't get a chance for other teams to sneak in there, because you've soccer, Saturday, Sunday, because your team's at home. Well, they're not home, but they're in travelling distance. And then the bottom end of that league, you'd be playing like mad to say maybe a team like Green Gully or Altona Magic. They go into the Victorian Premier League with a chance of playing in the National Cup at the end of the season by winning the Victorian Premier League as one of the top 2. So all over Australia, you've got interest and you've got access. But at the moment, you've got very little interest at one end of the table and very little access. That means you can't go and see your club every week.
What about the FFA Cup, the introduction of the FFA Cup, which allows more than 700 or 800 clubs right around the country to compete and ultimately to be one of 2 in the final?
I don't think we need it in the cup area. I think we need it in the league area, the day-to-day bread and butter, not the cups. The cups you can have, but you can encapsulate a cup as well. But if a team, say like Langwarrin, down where I live, at the moment, where can they get to the top? What there is for them to play for in Victoria? That's it. Shouldn't we just keep going and going and going until you reach the penultimate? And then, if a team needs a couple of points like Heidelberg did off his shaggy money, and there's no relegation, well, it's quite easy to flip over. Then I wouldn't have to steal goalposts.
Or find an ankle grinder. It's been compelling to listen to John Shocker Myles. You had so many questions for him.
Still going.
I want you to line up a couple of serious ones, because we've had an awful lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, George, what was the question that you most wanted to ask of Shocker?
In the job that you did at 927,
Yeah.
you interviewed some amazing people.
Yeah.
Drop some names and tell us about some of those interviews and some of the more interesting or exciting times you had on air or off air, for that matter.
Well, we
All the
had
biggest studs.
we had everybody. There wasn't a player that we didn't have from overseas. We had Alec Ferguson 3 times.
Yep.
And I remember we used to record him after the show at 7 o'clock because it was 10 o'clock over there. And he was late coming from the cliff to the ground at Manchester United, and we kept ringing his secretary. She says, he's on his way. He was great. He just come on, done his thing, that was it. And I said to my son, Martin, who was doing the production at the time, I says, run the tape when Alec gets on because I had an idea what he was going to do. So anyway, we get on and he goes, hi John, just go back for the cliff. I'm sorry, Man United business, but I'm sorry for making you wait. I hope I haven't put you out too much. I says, no, Alex, because he wasn't Sir Alex. No, Alex. I says, it's good. He says, okay, John. He says, I'm ready when you are. He says, and just take your time. So I've got Alex Ferguson apologising to me because his son was running the tape. So it was good, and he was excellent. And all the people we had from overseas were just, as soon as you said you were from Australia, they'd ask for a fax to confirm it. But all the big players, great players. It's far too.
We had Kevin Keegan in Australia. We had Sir Bobby Charlton. Did you ever get a chance to speak to them?
I spoke to Sir Bobby Charlton. Dennis Law was brilliant. He gave me an hour. I couldn't stop him.
Fabulous.
And he was good. And play for Manchester United. It's like something special. Score goals. You know what I mean? And If he just gave you. What about George Best, and he went on about George Best stories and all that. It just.
Is that still on file, that, anywhere?
Well, I had a lot of tapes that and then I think I let them. I think I let them sort of run away because there's not tapes then. But I mean, we used to run an ad in the British Soccer Weekly. I know an ad, but things like that. And that's another thing I was going to say about the A-League. I just want to diverse back to this because.
Sure.
About the A-League, if people think that soccer in Victoria is kicking goals, it's not. I'll give you 2 reasons. One, if you want to know about anything that's happened at the weekend with Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory, you're going to go in 7 or 8 pages in the Herald Sun to get to it. The next page is the deaths. And
you can listen to FNR and we'll give it to you straight up.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I'll be doing that from now on. And you can see, you'll always see at the bottom of some pages see an ad advertising a game. When have you ever seen an AFL team advertise a game? They don't. They don't have to. Because it's all free advertising. So you've still got to advertise the game in the paper that you're supplying your soccer results to. And I really do think, we're having to go on that head. When people say, there's 24,000 at the Melbourne Victory game last weekend. You couple the great South Melbourne Hellas teams against the great Heidelberg teams playing on a Sunday. Melbourne Croatia versus Footscray JUST. Sunshine versus, Preston versus another team. Add all the crowds together, and you probably get yourself 50,000. 50,000. So where people say the crowd's gone up, they're not. What they've done, they've reduced the teams to make it look stronger. You know what I mean? It's like putting 6 biscuits in a big box. You know what I mean? Like you think you're getting a big box, but there's only
one game a week compared to 7 games a week.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we've got to take a short break. Back right in just a moment with John Shocker Myles.
Yeah.
Alright, mic's up.
Welcome back. We're with Shocker. Quick question. There we're a friend of yours coming on in a couple of weeks, Greg Blake.
Blakey, yeah.
You did a bit of TV with him.
Yeah, we done that on Channel 31. We used to fight each other all the time.
Yeah. Two quiet lads who had nothing to say. How could you fight?
One experienced and one flamboyant.
Okay.
Take your pick.
I'm tipping there's a bit of flamboyance on both parts there.
Yeah.
Especially when he started shaping up.
Yeah, he's a lovely man, Greg.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to getting him on and letting him speak his mind in a
He was a bit
couple
of a pioneer. He done a lot to promote the game.
Absolutely, no. He's
You know,
got a great
especially
body
those
of
early
work.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very good. He done a hell of a lot for the game, and I can't hold anything against him
No,
for
that's
that.
good. And we look forward to having a chat with him. Going back to the guests that you had on Sport 97, there was one particular gent, legend of the game, decent player.
Andy Gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the only one we knocked back for
Why?
an overseas interview. Well, I got it on tape. We spoke to his agent, to say, look, Andy's, blah, 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 we need him on. Can he come and give us, a little bit of a run? Yeah, he said, well, how much is he going to pay him? And how are we going to work out the payment? Well, nobody had asked for payment, ever. And I says, well, there won't be any payment. And he said, well, you won't have him. I said, well, that's good. So you tell Andy to enjoy his life and goodbye, we won't see you again. And that was it. But I taped that so as I could tell the people, because I'd back announced it, that he was going to be on next week.
Sure.
So I taped it so the people could see that I'd done my best to get him on,
Yeah.
but he didn't want to come on. And my best ever player that I've ever seen play in Australia was Mehmet Jurakovic. I don't think there's been a better player than him.
Tell us why.
Just he had everything: heart, guts, went about his job. He could have made it in any league. I mean,
And he's doing a job in Malaysia.
well, I think if you
Enjoying
see
himself.
the much travelled Mark Milligan, if he ever wants to be a good player, what he's got left in him, and I don't think there's any countries Mark Milligan hasn't tried yet, is there? What about-
Apparently not.
What about the Cayman Islands? Has he been there? to visit his money.
Don't give his agent ideas.
Tax haven.
Thanks, Adam.
On that note, it's time for us to say goodbye and thank you very much.
Thanks so
to
much
John
for coming
Shocker
in.
Myles.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure being here, and keep up the good work, and don't forget the seesaw.
I'll do my best.
FNR, Football Nation Radio.
COTSANIS, no call! Score!
Salamini for Cole. Cole on the run. Shoots. 2-0.
Lazanovsky with the free kick. Launches a rocket! Trimboli, what vision! Blasts. Yes! That's it!
Vujovic.
Here's Bozanic. They haven't! They might have won it!
The Pioneers with George DONIKIAN and George COTSANIS on FNR, Football Nation Radio.